Hey guys, we're looking at the latest and greatest Superpedestrian Copenhagen Wheel. We're just about into 2018 at this point, so I don't really know what version this is. I don't know how to relate it to some of the other wheels, but the company's been around since around 2009. They introduced this and they won some special awards internationally, and it was this big green thing and it was going to be awesome. And then around 2012, it seems like they sort of formed into more of a company. Now it's 2018, we're finally getting this in what seems like a order it, get it, didn't have to wait too long type of scenario. And I'm mentioning all this because a lot of the people who got the early Copenhagen wheels, they ordered them off of Kickstarter or maybe pre-ordered through the company website. And I had comments on EBR, people are like, it's been over a year and I haven't even received mine. I can't verify those comments and I don't want to get too much into the controversy, but I guess I'm happy it seems like it's finally here. It seems like they've improved and refined it a little bit. It's a very advanced, pretty complex system. So inside this red casing here, it's kind of a metal casing, seems pretty solid. There's a motor, a gearless direct drive motor. So, there's a cutaway on the website and you can see there are electromagnets, and then there's this stator system that's sending electromagnetic energy through and repelling rare earth magnets, okay, just like most gearless direct drive motors. And that part of the reason I'm assuming this and communicating it is because you have a regen braking sort of a setup going on with this bike, and I've only ever seen that with gearless direct drive motors. They tend to be a little heavier, they tend to be very quiet, they tend to be durable because you don't have gears rubbing on each other. But in this case, you've also got battery packs kind of lining around inside that casing. And the battery capacity is 48 volts, 5.8 amp hours, whereas some of the earlier models, I was told it was 5.5 amp hours. So we've got slightly higher battery capacity, which is nice. Everything's still crammed in here. There are a lot of different sensors. The website says it measures torque and power and cadence, and there's like a gyroscope. And it's interesting because to me, torque and pedal power, kind of the same thing. I mean, are they just trying to make it sound even cooler than it already is, or is there a difference? I don't know. This is developed at like the MIT Open Labs, where they put together some patents. It does ride pretty well. It's smooth. It feels fluid when you pedal. It's almost interesting when you first start pedaling. It's so responsive to your foot, like pressure and power, that it's like a wave. You push down, it's like and until you actually get like a cadence that's pretty comfortable and you have some speed, it almost feels like I don't know, compared to like cadence sensors on some electric bikes, compared to like Easy Motion, I'm thinking they have a torque sensor, but it goes on and it doesn't come off quite as quickly. And I think that's designed to reduce surge. Okay, so surge is that feeling of waviness. I'm going to do some ride tests later. I'm going to get some more feedback on it. I wanted to give you guys some perspective on where this is coming from, and let's hit some of the other specs. Okay, so right now we're working with a single speed, but you can also get 7, 8, 9, or 10 speed cassette. They have a couple of different dropout widths. I think it's 135 was the wider one. What was the smaller one, Chris?
120 is
120?
a smaller size,
And
more
that's
commonly found on a single speed like this.
Yeah, right. So and then you can get a couple different wheel sizes, 26 or 700C. That's like the 28.
Right, and then different widths
Different
as well.
widths.
So you can do 25C, I think 32, or 50C for the roadside, and then for the 26 you can do the 35 or 50C. So it's kind of like a hybrid tire or a mountain bike tire.
One thing you cannot do is disc brakes. You have to use rim brakes. This bike doesn't even have it. So we have a Sinelli. It's got a traditional linear pull kind of rim brake up front, and these are machined sidewalls, so if we had a rim brake back here, that would give us some braking power. There's also this interesting regen system built in, so while you're riding, if you're coasting and you pedal backwards like this, it turns on regen and acts as a motor brake. Really nice. Puts a little bit of energy back into the system. You'll notice these unique curved spokes. These are 14 gauge, so a little bit thicker than average, and the rim has these really nice reinforcement eyelets. You can choose between a black or a silver rim. There's a lot of little, great attention to detail, some refinements, but you can only get red. So, hopefully you like that gloss bright red look. coming back to the limitations of those wheel sizes, if you have a 20-inch bike or 24-inch bike or a fat tire bike,
right.
This isn't going to be the system for you. It's designed more for streets and stuff anyway. And the speed has been updated. So it used to be kind of a 20 mile per hour top speed in the US, 15.5, 25 kilometers per hour in the UK, parts of Europe, and that's their standard. Now you can go up to 25 miles per hour in the United States, but there's a lot of adjustability in the app. And we were talking about how if you're maybe you have kids or something.
Right. So yeah, you can adjust it from 10 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour, and you can effectively lock it down in some ways, because if you had, they have this guest mode. So if I was a parent and I wanted to give my kid a bike for them to use, maybe you can break it down to 15 miles an hour or something like that.
Right.
You know? And
as long as your kid can handle a 26-inch wheel size, because they don't have the smaller ones.
That's true too. Yeah.
So it's a minor thing, just some considerations. We've been spending a lot of time like researching this, and I know we're just spewing stats here. Can you flip the bike around, Chris? I wanted to show the other side. And when we're doing that, this is the charger. It's pretty standard in terms of weight, 1.7 pounds. Has that nice magnetic energy bus charger interface, Rosenberger standard. So this can send data as well as power. And if you trip over it, it just pops right off of the bike. Not a problem. Hopefully not going to, tip the bike. 2 amp output. It's kind of average. But again, the capacity on this battery isn't really that great. 48 volts, 5.8 amp hours. A lot of times these days we're seeing like 48 volts, 10 amp hours, or even more for like a 500 watt hour capacity. So this is, it's a little smaller. And the interesting thing about it is at 16.8 pounds, it's not that much different than some of the other drive systems. Like, it looks clean. You don't have wires. We don't have a display. You have to use your phone for a display. So it's clean, and you might think like, wow, that's got to be really light. This electric bike compared to something like this. We've got a recent Mueller over here. It's just using a standard Bosch setup, but the Bosch motor is 8.8 pounds, and then it's like 5.8 pounds for the battery pack. So we're actually looking at kind of a similar weight profile, but the weight on the Superpedestrian, it's all kind of towards the rear. And there have been a couple times today where I was pulling the bike up a curb or something like that, and you're kind of handling the front, and the back of the bike just kind of fishtails a little bit. It wants to tip. Once you get going, it's fine. The weight, at least it's low. It's not a rack-mounted battery setup, but it's something that I want to call out because, this is unsprung weight. Okay, like, you do have a little bit of vibration dampening from the tires, but these are really thin, kind of minimal tires. So if you're going over a lot of bumps and stuff, the batteries and all the fancy electronics are getting shaken a little bit. Again, this is kind of like the other comments from before. I totally welcome you guys to chime in with your own experiences on range and everything they estimate. I want to be a conservative here and say maybe like 15 to 30 miles, depending on the assist level, the terrain. What were you going to say, Chris?
Yeah. I mean, that's what it says, about 30 miles. So yeah, I could think it really depends on the assistance levels. And one thing I will mention, that the regenerative braking is pretty powerful compared to some of the other systems. And that's one of the things we decided on this bike, not to put a rear brake. It definitely has the capability, but it's kind of an interesting ride. It makes it a little bit more fun and interesting in my experience.
So can you lift the back of the bike up for a second?
Sure.
I wanted to demonstrate that cogging and sort of like always active regen. So I'm gonna push this pretty hard and watch how quickly it spins to a stop. Right? Let's do that again. Nothing's dragging. That's literally the magnets repelling on those stators on the inside. And the bike is on right now, okay? So it's like, let's do the front wheel for comparison. I mean, look at it spin, right? There's no resistance. So I'm not saying that this is gonna wreck your day. It's still fine to pedal along, and you're gonna charge it a little bit, but when you think about the food you ate, you digested it, you pedaled, you exerted some heat, goes back here, puts off a little more heat, finally recaptures it and converts it to chemical energy stored in the batteries. Not the most efficient. People always ask like, oh, I'll just pedal, I'll charge my battery. I'm like, great, you're wasting a ton of food energy. The food was trucked in with a huge truck using diesel. Yeah, it's better to just plug this into the wall, and the grid does get cleaner over time with wind power and solar being pumped back in. As long as they allow net metering. Hopefully we'll see more of that in the future. Get some of these big companies acknowledging the value of sustainability. However, back to that process of converting some of that mechanical energy back into electrical and then chemical stored in the batteries, there's heat that's put off. So if you're going really fast on this and you're using regen, first of all, I think it'll stop once you fill the battery so they don't overcharge it. Right now we have 4 out of 5 dots in terms of capacity. I love that there's a battery percentage, you know, up here on the display. So we're at 86%. You can see it there on the left. But extreme heat is kind of hard on batteries.
Sure.
And we have this confined, like fully enclosed, water-resistant space that's generating heat because you're powering the bike, and then it's even, you know, you're getting heat because you're doing regen. It's one of the things that's crossed my mind. The vibration and the heat, I don't know. And again, I don't really want to speculate. I just want to be honest and say, like, when I look at some of the other motor designs out there, they separate the batteries. I'm thinking the Bionics D series. They have a separate battery. They have a huge, similar looking, like, black case. Most of the inside of that one's air, and they do that for heat dissipation.
Yeah, it's actually making me think of, I don't know if you've seen the early bike, the Tidal Force.
Yeah.
Those older bikes that they had the
2 of
motor
them,
and
right?
the battery
One
and the front and the rear wheel. And
yeah.
Really kind of interesting system. But yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, you're definitely paying some penalties for the simplicity and everything else. But
there's some sacrifices. This is, you know, I'm reviewing it, right? I'm trying to say, like, here are the things that are crossing my mind as someone who sees a lot of electric bikes. You know, you come down here, this is the charging port with that magnetic cover. I love that they've got a little rubber, you know, kind of a leash on this, so it's not going to get lost. A lot of the other ones, you pull this little thing out, like some of the, I think some of the Bionics ones even have that. You pull it out and you set it down and you forget it and it's gone. You've got a nice torque arm here, so that's the Superpedestrian rubber thing, and then there's this blade right here. Because there's a lot of force being exerted by this motor, whether it's powering you or regen, and you don't want to bend these dropouts here. So that torque arm gives you some leverage. Wonderful that they did that. Here's the on-off switch, so it's this little, you kind of turn it to the side, and it would turn the wheel off. Got these spokes again with a little bit of plastic coating, so maybe they won't mar up the casing. It looks so nice, you know, and there's the branding, and it's relatively narrow and aerodynamic. It's great, but because there aren't any wires, because it's so simple, imagine running your phone like this. It's on right now. We're at 20% battery. We're using Bluetooth. I think it's the high efficiency 4.0 Bluetooth,
yeah.
Right? But there's no. It'd be neat if you could tap into that battery, you know, to charge your phone. So just make sure your phone is fully charged before you take this thing out on a ride, because it's going to be, you know, especially if you're using GPS simultaneously or something. It's something I think about these days with a big, almost like a fat phone like this. You got a little bit higher energy capacity, or like a backpack. And Chris, did it not come with that mount? This is something you guys installed?
Yeah, so this is something that we installed. It's called the Quad Lock.
Okay.
And yeah,
Let me just see that from the. Yeah. Okay. So it's like a case. Do they probably have some mounts that also have like an energy backpack or something that you could?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, and yeah, there's many different ways to go, and even I don't know if it's going to continue to be the case, but like for example, the Kobe, which I think that you had reviewed on other bikes, you can also get that as a universal system. So that could be a kind of interesting melding of these technologies.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, because the Kobe, it has like a built-in light, and you know, there's that electronic bell and stuff. So the point being, this is a solvable thing, but it's just not. Coming back to the pound 16.8, can you do the math? Like 8.8 plus, you know, 5.8. What is that? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's like 14.6 pounds.
Right. Yep.
And this is 16.8. Okay, so that we're directly comparing the Bosch system, which has a 500 watt hour battery, to the Superpedestrian. You know, there's just a lot of weight there, but that's because it's a gearless direct drive motor. This is a lot quieter and it offers regen. Bosch tends to be a little higher noise, and it has the, you know, can wear your drivetrain down a little bit faster. There's even some friction because it has the gearing system. What's that called, Chris? I always forget. Reduction gear. But yeah, I don't know. So you definitely need a phone running iOS or Android to run this bike. You can't get it and just run it without that. And it has a bunch of cool features. Maybe we should jump into that, right? Unless, is there anything else you care to say before we get into the control systems?
Yeah, let's hop in.
Okay, great. Thanks. So here we go. We're using the personal hotspot here because we wanted to gather some stats and feedback, but the basic display shows your battery in terms of percentage. Love that. Much better than just like 5 bars, like infographic. Wheel power chart over here on the right, and then human chart. And it's cool because you can kind of see them being matched. It is really smart, and there's some really great trip feedback after you've ridden a little bit. And then the different levels of assist. So there's turbo, standard, eco, off, or exercise. That's like regen, like fill the battery. And for people who do want to get a workout and you don't live near hills, that could be a fun one. And then down here we have lock. We have distance, so that's how far. It's like trip distance. If we say cancel, we can see some of our trip stats. So there's our last trip. Do you want to go to a more, like a longer trip?
Yeah, so this one was not super long, 1.3 miles. And we're going to load that up.
That's fine. Oh, wow. So was this like a test ride someone did from your shop?
Yeah, I believe so.
So we have 1.3 miles, 7-minute duration, average speed 10 miles per hour, 26 calories. We got this cool map, shows the time. And then here's the power output. This is what I was talking about. So you can see the motor was putting out a lot of power and the person was putting out a little less. Maybe they were in turbo mode. And when you scroll this, look, it shows you where you were on the map. So you can see like, oh, this part of the ride.
And so this is actually going up a hill right here. I happen to know that, right? So you're going up a hill and you can see as the power is kind of going down. And then this is going downhill here. So it's kind of interesting to see that, and that you're not using that power at that time.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if the green is like regen or something. What's that?
It's quite possible. Let's see if we...
Because the motor is on top. Yeah.
Yep.
Minus 101 watts. Huh. Yeah. So it's like they switched to exercise motor. Maybe that was the backpedaling thing.
Yeah, probably that. Yeah, that regenerative braking.
Pretty cool. Oh, and look at this. Here's you got your speed chart, altitude chart. I mean, there's so much stuff. Rider torque, consumption. So much more advanced than a lot of the electric bike systems that we see.
Yeah, there's actually some other settings here. If you want to, you can just hit cancel to get out of the ride mode here. Currently we're in the trips mode because that's where you were set from last. But if you go into profile, you have a lot of different options. So this one's currently connected to myself. You can have different settings for your account.
Like a picture, social media kind of stuff?
Yeah, and then you go into the wheel. You can select the wheels that you're connected to. So currently I have it to auto connect, which is kind of nice. So every time there's Bluetooth within range, it will auto connect. Then you can go into the individual wheel and you can name the wheel, change the power time, save timeout. Currently set to 30 minutes. It can go down to 1 minute. And then you also have the option for max assist speed, as we were talking about earlier. So the default is 20 miles an hour. You can set it as low as 10 miles an hour. When you initially try to change the speed above the limit within your respective country, it will give you a warning. You have to accept that you might be violating some laws or something like that. So just to be mindful of that.
Makes me wonder if it gives you up to 25 miles per hour in Europe. Even though technically, it's like you download the US app and boom, or if there's a hardware difference.
I believe that there's a hardware difference. I believe that the hardware is spec'd specifically for the bike. It does actually say that on the on the display. And then you have guests, or you have the firmware, which is currently up to date. You have ability to manage guests, which is kind of nice. So you might be able to add in different guests and that sort of thing. And then you can report an issue or disconnect. So those are most of the profile settings. You can refer a friend, and then it's just settings to make it into kilometers per hour, etc.
One of the things that I saw earlier when we were at Ride was this lock thing. So the idea here is, just like when you pedal backwards, you get that kind of regen mode. It makes the bike really hard to ride.
Right.
It slows you down. Or it's fitness, where it's like a lighter regen, where you're just having fun. The lock, it just locks up the wheel, right?
That's right.
So you can't ride it. Someone can't ride it away.
Yeah.
Do you want to try that real quick?
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. So if we hit lock, and then maybe if you wanna, do you want to ride the bike or you want to hold on to?
Yeah, I'll ride the bike.
Okay, so I'll hold on to the phone. So I believe that the idea is that once you're out of kind of Bluetooth range and that sort of thing, the bike's going to lock up. So
you stay here. I'm going to steal your bike. Sucker. I do not recommend this at home. Stealing bikes is not cool. So far, wheels working fine. Damn. Don't have the display, but... still working fine. Just riding around. I'm assuming I'm out of Bluetooth range at this point. Kind of surprised, to be honest with you. I thought it was going to lock up a little bit sooner. Still hasn't locked up. I'm going to go back and just have Chris turn off his cell phone or maybe disconnect. He had that auto connect thing set up, so maybe that'll do it. But as is, I'd be a little concerned right now. One of the things Superpedestrian talks about on their website is because this is so, it's kind of like a little computer, they send out firmware updates and stuff, and maybe this is something that they could work on in the future if we're mixing it up or something. Hey Chris, it never locked up. You said that you had it set up for auto connect, right?
I do.
You want to turn that off and maybe disconnect your Bluetooth or?
Yeah. Let's try that again. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Also, one of the things they said is that firmware can be updated. Do you know how these update with firmware? Do you plug the wheel into your computer, or what happens? Or when you connect to the app sends the update.
Yeah, there's
Bluetooth.
a lot of communication just taking place through your phone, so it's actually for updates and also sending some data to make sure that the bike is working.
Where has Chris been riding lately?
Yeah, so some people might be a little concerned about that stuff. I'm not sure, if or how you're allowed to turn those things off, but
when this wheel was first introduced, they had like an open API so people could develop apps and you could track where people are riding. And the idea was within the community, the government could then see like, oh, people ride their bikes on these trails. We should put more money into infrastructure towards these trails, or we can encourage cycling. These months, more people cycle. I mean, it's a neat idea, like the future of intelligent.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of discussions about these sort of things, and also kind of creating bike paths where people really need them, as opposed to where it seems logical or convenient, right?
Oh, yeah. Gosh, it's like we put one way outside of town there with plenty of open space. Yes, it gets me. So what's the next?
So we're disconnected. Let's give it another go.
So we turned off Bluetooth. Do you want to you disconnected the auto connect thing too?
Yes, I did.
Do you want to close the app even?
Sure.
Just so we swipe up.
Well, I can even log out.
You're on an Android. Oh, no, that's an iPhone.
Yeah, iPhone.
Okay, so the app is closed. The app is closed. Bluetooth is off. Okay, here we go. Let's try it again. Yep, I think that did it. Wait. Yeah, I think that did it.
Yeah.
I can still pedal.
But it's not easy.
It's not easy. Yeah, I'm in like workout mode right now. So that's interesting. I guess the big takeaway from this is that if you buy this, you might not want to assume that lock just automatically works. You might want to tinker with it because it didn't work immediately for us. That was cool though. I'm glad we tested that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's within a reasonable proximity. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay. I think maybe this is a good chance to hop on it and go for a ride. But first, we had the iPad pulled up. Is there anything else we should call out? Like, Superpedestrian sells the wheel with a tire and a cassette, and that's $14.99. It's roughly $1,500. Or you can buy one of their pre-made bikes. So if you don't want to install it and you just want a bike that's set up, they have a whole bunch of options now. They have 3 just from Superpedestrian that are like kind of fixed, not fixies, but single speed. They've got one that looks like this, doesn't have any fenders or racks, like a city bike. And then they have one that looks like, kind of has some racks. Yeah, the trousers, see this? So it has a rear rack and a little, and even that one has fenders and a chainring cover. So those are nice, and they're still $19.99. So for $500, you get a bike. Let's keep going. Fixation, look at that with some fun ones. Marin, so Marin has more of those hybrid bikes. None of these have suspension, which, for me, I'd be thinking about, getting a seat post suspension or something like that. Public, and it sounds like Public, they have these really colorful, beautiful bikes. I've reviewed some of their earlier bikes that had the Bionic system built in with a rack and a motor. And it sounds like maybe they were purchased recently by Mike's Bikes.
Yeah, I believe so.
It's like a bike chain.
Yeah, in, I guess, the Northern California area.
Huh, okay.
Kinda interesting.
Yeah, and then what's the Papillion or something?
Yeah, so
That's
it looks
cool.
like a vintage road bike style. So a little bit more, but yeah, so if the motor system's $1,500, the bike, this one is about $800. So, but I think that's really what this product would be popular for. I think that's one of the things that's interesting for us. In New York City, it's quite popular to have like a single speed bike or some like vintage road bike or something like that. And I think those are the applications that make a lot of sense. Some people have a bike that they really attach to, and they might have limitations with adapting other motor systems, but this could be a good add-on in those instances.
But here's the thing, you guys. So why are they popular? Why are single speeds popular in New York? Well, they tend to be cheap. They're lightweight, so you can carry it up your stairs and toss it into your very limited space apartment. This isn't quite as cheap. It draws a lot of attention because it's bright red, and carrying it's going to be lighter. I mean, it is lighter than that bike, but that bike has fenders, lights, a seat post suspension, a suspension fork, a display. I mean, there's a reason. So this is still in like the 40s, mid 40s or something like that, and most like fully featured electric bikes are in that 50-pound range. So to me, that was a big takeaway. It was like, it's kind of rear heavy. I expected it to be a little bit lighter. You get limited battery capacity. It's just simple and clean is what it comes down to. Are there any other, how else would you describe this, Chris? Or you've ridden this, you've had this in the shop. What do people think?
Yeah, I think that overall, as you shared, I mean, there's been a lot of excitement over the years for this product.
Over the many years.
Yeah. I know that's an interesting thing because, I mean, I started my business in 2011 and I was aware of this product, but over the years of building my business up, and I'm like, when are we actually going to see this thing really out on the street? Yeah. And now we're starting to see it a little bit more, and as you said, you can get it, a little bit quicker these days. But yeah, I think for people that want something just simple, but I think you do have to really consider about long-term serviceability and everything else, and how that works. There are many proprietary parts on the bike. The spokes are very unique, so it's something that you can only use their spokes and different details like that. And maybe if you needed service on it, you'd probably have to send it back to them. But they seem to be, forward thinking about a lot of that stuff. But, those are some of the challenges, concerns that come up for me.
Awesome. Well, some great partnerships, some beautiful bike options, charger option. They're dialing it in. It's getting better, and they seem to be well funded or something. I actually visited their MIT lab several years ago, and I met the team, and I walked around, and it was like, okay, they're there, they're ready, and they're like, no, we're still refining it. So back to the app, how advanced it is and how they're refining the motor. I mean, kudos. They even have this thing called Rosa, which is a self-diagnostic feedback, right. Smart. They're really into robotics and engineering, and maybe I can't do all of that justice, but from a user point of view, that ride experience is interesting. Maybe I'll hop on this, Chris. Can you? I activated.
Can you help with that?
Yeah. Take a little test ride real quick. So we're gonna exit the trip area from history, and we'll just say ride. That brings us back to that real minimal display. Will you stay here, and I'm gonna take it down. There we go. This is what I'm talking about. It makes me just want to be really careful with that rear wheel. There we go. The back's going to be a little more rigid too. One of the benefits of spokes is that they can kind of bend and flex. You're not getting as much flex because these spokes are shorter. And I'm in turbo mode, so here we go. Nice. Now I'm gonna slow down. Whoa! That's awesome. That was all regen braking right there. I didn't really even have to squeeze that brake lever, because rim brakes are kind of They don't do quite as well as some of the other disc brakes or hydraulic rim. So here's what the display is showing. You can see that the wheel's putting out a lot of power. I'm only putting out a little. That's because we're in turbo mode. Super quiet. There we go again. Whew. I'm definitely a fan of the regen braking. That's just fun. It's neat to pedal backwards like that. I am still feeling a little bit of the surge. But even if I just pedal lightly, like I'm not actually putting a lot of power in right now, you can see that the wheel is still giving me some feedback. So that's what I mean. I mean, it's measuring how much force, but also just the cadence. As long as you're moving your feet a little bit, the motor's gonna kick on. It's a great combination of like a cadence sensor and torque sensor. It's definitely one of the more advanced sensors out there. They say it's measuring these signals more than 100 times per second, and that's a lot. I think the Bosch system says they measure pedal cadence, pedal torque, and rear wheel speed over 1,000 times per second. So, you know, I don't know how, I feel like this is still pretty responsive, and I'm not feeling like a huge difference. Back there when I slowed down a little bit to turn, it almost seemed like it put on the regen. Maybe I move my foot even just a little bit. If you just barely start to pedal backwards, it activates that regen. But I think that's adjustable, kind of like the top speed. There's a lot of settings with this bike that you can experiment with. Sweet. Okay guys, from here you can see the Copenhagen wheel. We've got the single sprocket on the left. You're gonna be able to see me start pedaling, hopefully hear it when it's giving me power, and then you'll see me pedaling backwards, and maybe you'll listen and get to hear some of that regen. Just get an idea for how it works, how responsive it is. I do want to point out that these rims have those nice reinforcement eyelets, thick spokes. Like it's definitely, you know, it's built with some higher quality materials there. Okay, well I stood up and gave it some real effort. Got up to about 23 miles per hour, and then I immediately had to go into braking because we were coming up to a stop sign. And, you know, I coasted through the stop. I would have used my handbrake, but I wanted to do kind of a stop test, a distance. Seems like it's working pretty well, very quiet, really smooth, especially once I get up to speed. You do not have to pedal backwards as fast as I was in order to activate braking. I just think it's kind of fun. Kind of feels like a fixed gear bike in a way, where you really don't have to use the brakes that much if you don't want to. And here's the other side of the wheel. Just thought it'd be fun to show it in case there's a different sound profile or get an idea for speed. That was interesting. The rear wheel bounced a little bit when I came up that curb, and because I was doing regen, I got a little bit of skidding. It was kind of like but otherwise, you know, working pretty well. Still feeling that like surge type of feeling. It'd be neat if they could maybe smooth out the starts a little bit, because it propels you, and then I feel my body like momentum. You know, I don't feel quite as in sync with the bike because of that surge. Can I give you a try? And
Yeah.
Third person perspective.
That's good.
There we go. We're down to 17% on your phone.
All right. We're not too far away.
Sweet.
All right.
Maybe you can come back and do like pass once and then do a regen. I'm gonna stand in the street so I can face. I'm gonna stand over here so I don't get the sun. Chris is really zipping. I mean, that 25 mile per hour making this kind of a class 3.
17.
There's the regen. You can see it slowing. It's not like an immediate stop thing, but it's good enough. It does a pretty good job. It's one of the few bikes that can go like above 20 miles per hour. How does that feel to you?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I totally got there just now, but yeah, it's nice to be able to go a little bit faster.
If you're commuting.
But yeah, I think with this sort of bike, maybe I might want some more braking to be going above 20 miles an hour too. That's something to be considered.
It's a good point. And you could have a disc brake on the front if you had mounts for those,
right.
But you want to be careful not to flip yourself either. The other thing about the higher speeds is that you get a pretty significant hit in terms of range because the wind resistance, the air resistance. I've heard that above 20 it's like exponential.
Absolutely, yeah. Those factors definitely come into play. The resistance on the road, all these different details. And the other thing, as you were mentioning before about suspension, I think that's a really big deal. And as you go faster, having suspension is really helpful.
That's a good
Especially
point.
if you hit a bump, you can really you can lose control pretty easily as you're going faster. You can catch more air on a bump or something like that, which some people might think is cool, but if you don't expect it, it can be really dangerous.
It's nice that they give you some control on top speed. But yeah, those are all good considerations. I think that's about it, you guys. That's the latest and greatest Copenhagen wheel that I've seen. This is the third review I've done. You can check out some of the older ones if you want to compare and contrast. I've tried to spec everything out. Like, yes, the battery is a little bit higher capacity. I think this one's heavier than some of the older ones. The app is slightly different, and now they're actually delivering them.
Right.
Yeah, so this is good. Thank you, Chris, so much. Again, Chris owns a shop here in Brooklyn called Propel Bikes. It's neat to go out. Again, this is something you just would buy from their website. So
right.
getting that kind of that feedback from someone who's so passionate about e-bikes and getting your perspectives has been fun.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Ride safe, you guys.